Hello everyone, welcome to Amrita IS Monthly Current Affairs series, and we are starting with the second session of International Affairs. This last session was a bit long, and we'll try to keep it short. Let's move on. The first one, and the only things we are discussing will be the bilateral relationships, the bilateral issues. The first one is the IC impacts. Again, you can see the symbol, not very important. So it's an India Canada Center for Innovation, Multidisciplinary Partnership for Accelerated Community Transformation and Sustainability. So IC Impacts is an India Canada. So India Canada relationship, you already know that they are not very significant as compared to India, USA, India, and other countries. So you have organized a conference to discuss on a lot of areas on which they can collaborate, such as green buildings, such as smart cities, waste water management, sustainable infrastructure, and all these. So it's the name of the conference. Not very important. So let's move to the next one. But remember, IC impacts, if the question comes, so it is India and Canada conference. Chaliye. The next one is 1947 Pact on the Gorkha soldiers. So what is the story behind it? It's in the news because the Nepal minister has said the Gorkha soldiers are redundant and we need to do some bilateral agreement with the countries India and Britain. So for the mistreatment of the Gorkha soldiers did not take place. Now, first of all, understand the context. So in 1814 to 1816, Anglo-Nepalese war happened. Then we signed the Treaty of Sagoli. Treaty of Sagoli also came in the news last year because of the Kalapani dispute or the other border disputes that were there. That also has the origin in the Treaty of Sagoli only. But that's the talk of the another day. So under the Treaty of Sagoli, EIC has recruited from that period. EIC, that is East India Company, started recruited the Gorkhas in the army. Now that tradition continued, but in 1947, when the partition happened, there was an agreement being signed that the Gorkhas will continue to serve in both the armies. First, obviously in the Nepal army, then second, the two armies, that is in India as well and in the British army as well. Now in Indian army, we know that there is a whole Gorkha regiment, very fierce, very good, competent regiment that is there, Gorkha regiment. In the British army also, there is a Gorkha regiment. They form around 3% of the British army. They are part of the Royal Gorkha Rifles. In fact, the Queen Guard also has the 2 Gorkha soldiers, Queen Guards. Okay? So, and they also get the same entitlement, whether they're in whether they're in India, they'll get the same entitlement such as the Indian soldiers. If they're in the British, they'll get the same entitlement as the British soldiers. But there have been some of the cases the cases have been reported of the mistreatments or the discrimination being meted out to the Gorkha soldiers. And that is why this is in news, nothing else. So for some time now, Gorkha veterans have been alleging that the UK has been discriminating against them. And that is why it came into the news, because of the statement from the Nepal minister. Okay, so it's in 1947, they have allocated 10 regiments of the Gorkha soldiers and they have signed this India-Nepal tripartite agreement. That's all the news that is there. This is what we need to understand. Okay? Chalo. The next one is the Teesta water dispute, Teesta river dispute. So first of all, we all know that this dispute is between India and Bangladesh. Why it's in the news? Because now China is getting involved in this into this as well. So China is developing some of the loans. China is giving loans to the Bangladesh for some projects that will be built on the Teesta river in the Bangladesh. And this is to say that China's involvement into this hydro diplomacy or China's involvement into this neighborhood. Okay? It is adding to the already existing tension between this Bangladesh and India and China, basically, so as to say. Now, if we talk about a timeline of the Teesta dispute, so Teesta disputes have the origin to previously hai, but in 1993 we have come to some sort of an agreement, a half-hearted deal it is called. So around 39% to be given to India, 36% to the Bangladesh, 25% to be unallocated. But it was again in 1996 we get a Ganga Treaty. So the Bangladesh has hoped that similar to the 1996 Ganga Treaty, we can have a We can have a similar agreement for the Teesta as well, right? But they could not. In 2011, they have signed one interim agreement when Manmohan Singh was there. They were on the verge of signing a particular agreement on Teesta, but it was not signed because Manmohan Singh in 2011 was a UPA government and it was a coalition government. So this interim agreement could not be properly signed because Mamata Banerjee from West Bengal has not approved to it. When she has not approved to it, it has led to a limbo. Now, Mr. Modi has said to the visit of the Sheikh Hasina that we will, in 2015, that we will take up this issue and we will solve this issue, but this issue still is in limbo, could not be solved. The issue is created more problems. The issue has created more problems because of the climate change, because of the population pressure, because of the increasing industrialization, because of the increasing energy needs of the people. For example, hydroelectricity, right? Decreasing the agricultural yields, requirement of the more water guzzling crops that are there, and a lot of problems. The glaciers are also melting, and a lot of issues are there that makes this dispute more problematic. But now, as the India and Bangladesh relationship are said to be at the golden chapter, right? Hence, these issue becomes very peripheral in nature. Yes, they need to be solved, but they are a bit peripheral in nature. If we talk about the Teesta River, so Teesta River's origin lies in the Sikkim, that is the Changthang Sikkim. So the origin lies in the Sikkim of the Teesta River, and that it merges into the another river in the Bengal, in the Bangladesh. So it's a tributary of the Brahmaputra. So in Brahmaputra, it merges in the West Bengal. Now, one question has come in 2017 on the Teesta. Let us see this question. With reference to river Teesta, consider the following statements. Source of the river Teesta is same as that of Brahmaputra, but it flows through Sikkim. The river Rangit originates in Sikkim and is a tributary of Teesta. The river Teesta flows into Bay of Bengal on the border of the India and Bangladesh. Now, you can pause the video and try the question, but if you see the third part, that is that it flows into Bay of Bengal. Does it flow into Bay of Bengal? Answer is no. The existence of the Teesta as an independent river finishes when it merges into the Brahmaputra, and hence the Teesta is no longer, does not flow into the Bay of Bengal. So the third statement is wrong, this statement is wrong, this statement is wrong, this statement is wrong, and only the second statement becomes right. And this is how you need to play very smart. Even if you have not read about this river Rangit, but Teesta itself is a very small river. How can one know the tributaries of Teesta also? It's very difficult to know, right? But very smartly you can play and you can get it. This is all the elimination technique is all about, isn't it? But it all depends upon the content and all depends upon the presence of mind at that point of time. Next is the supply chain resilience infrastructure, SCRI, very important. So basically from the name itself, you can see supply chain resilience infrastructure. Supply chain means one country, India, Australia, Japan. One country needs something, so they can coordinate with each other. This agreement gives the more formal outlook to this. Okay, when we need, for example, PPE kits, we need something else, some pulses or anything else. So it creates an alternative supply chain with the countries of the like-minded countries. Japan, Australia, later USA, so as to reduce the dependence of each country on China and introduce the mutual interdependence among the like-minded countries. So it's a trilateral approach to trade with India and USA as the other two partners. So this is the resilient supply chain initiative. Now, let us very quickly summarize. So, resilient supply chain initiative mooted by Japan, Australia, and India diversify the supply risk, not dependent on the one. And the challenges such as man-made, for example, tsunami happened in, let's say, Japan, some earthquake happened in Japan, or some wildfire came in Australia, or some flood come in India. So, they can depend on each other. Okay. So, the objective is to introduce, the official objective is to make this Indo-Pacific an economic powerhouse and establish a complementary relationship between all these three countries, Japan, Australia, and India. The background of which lies in these factors. So first, increasing initiative towards the concretization of Quad. So for leading to the Quad, we need small initiatives, small collaborations, small overlapping interest, so that we can concretize towards our Quad. Quad should not remain a hollow agenda. These should drive the idea of the Quad. Then alternative supply chain, the post-COVID world, alternative supply chain that is not China driven. Then we have the experience from the COVID. In COVID, we have seen that sometimes because of the glut in the supply chain, because the problem of the supply chain, how many problems comes, the price rise, lack of infrastructure, and a lot of things. So we have learned from the COVID experience that we need to create such channels through which we can get the supplies in a very short time. This is also very much required. And obviously China, Australia and India, specifically Australia and India, reducing their dependence from China. So this lies at the background of the supply chain resilient initiative. Then India Maldives relationship. You can see the location of Maldives, capital Mal. So the location, it lies at the heart of the Indian Ocean. Hence the location of the Maldives becomes very critical. At a very critical juncture, Malay pe China is also developing. Malay is a very important component of the strength of the Pulse policy, because from Hambantota here, sorry, in the Gwadar here, Hambantota, Mal is also a Malay. China has eyes on it. Now India is trying to get Maldives again into its own orbit, so that Maldives security in the Maldives, if any problem is there in the Maldives, it will create security concerns for India as well. Okay, so why is in the news? Because India has announced a slew of measures for Maldives. For example, a 500 million package for one project, that is the Malay connectivity project. If we talk about the background of it, so just like India has its own neighborhood first policy, similarly Maldives also had its India first policy. So it's a complementary partnership between both the nations. So India's neighborhood first and Maldives India first policy. It has been concretized by, for example, participation in Indian Ocean Rim Association. We will see today, that is SAARC. Both the countries are part of SAARC. Both the countries are part of Indo-Pacific. It is India's maritime neighborhood. It is a part of India's small country diplomacy, that is a diplomacy with these countries, so as to get a lot of support. For example, Maldives EEZ is there, support in UNSCC it is there, and a lot of things we'll discuss somewhere else. So diplomacy with a small country is also very helpful. If we talk about the recent project, so first the real air bubble agreement has been made. What is the air bubble agreement? For example, you have seen in IPL, so there is a bubble being created, so you will interact only with these people, so that no people in this bubble come and go. Similarly, air bubble means creating a flight of the bubble from this country to this country, this country to that country. Then direct ferry service, some submarine cable. Important one is this project, Greater Malay Connectivity Project, worth of 500 millions. It will connect Malay to the 3 more islands. Just keep these islands name in mind, Tilafushi, Guhifahu, Willingili. The question can come, they can give these islands, comma, where they are located. Pacific Ocean, Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, where these islands are located. So these islands are located in the Indian Ocean. Plus, we have added $400 million of more line of credit, that is a sort of a loan to Maldives, in addition to the $800 million that we have already given to them. So you can see India does a lot of developmental projects. India does a lot of infrastructural projects in Maldives. That is India Malay Connectivity Project. So this project is seen as a alternative, or as a comparison to the Chinese built Sina-Malay Friendship Bridge. So Chinese have built a very huge Sina-Malay Friendship Bridge connecting Malay to the other 2 islands. But this project, that is Greater Malay Connectivity Project, this is an even bigger project than this Chinese-led Sinha-Malay Friendship Bridge that connect Malay to and Honolulu Island and all these things. Right? So it is the biggest intra-island connectivity plan in this island nation, because this is made up of small islands, isn't it? So connectivity among the islands is very important. And for example, China helped with this, India helping with this, and all these things. Chalo. Very important thing we need to understand, that is high impact community development project. Now India is taking up not India is taking up these big infrastructure projects such as this Greater Malaya Connectivity Project, but India is also taking up these high impact community development projects, and these projects are very very significant in nature. Why? These projects, high impact community development projects, are very significant in nature because here the country such as India impacts the core population, directly to the population. For example, the fishing, helping the fishing community, building up a small hospital, building up, for example, water reservoir, sewage treatment plant. So, projects that impact the community directly and that helps to create more inclusive country to country relationship rather than only the government to government relationship. So, for example, 5.5 million worth of projects have been allotted, implemented by city and the local council. It will enhance the capacity of the locally elected representatives and support the decentralized efforts of the government of Maldives. Then fishing processing plants they have created, that is in the series of the high impact community development projects. So that's the session, everyone. End of the session, everyone. Let us quickly see the 5 questions. I hope these 5 questions are helping you because I'm putting a lot of efforts to get these through. So the first question, in 2015, they have asked about this IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association. Consider the following statement. Established very recently in response to the threat of piracy and the accidents of oil spill. It's an alliance meant for the maritime security only. Now you can see this word only. Now this is said to be one of the extreme words. How one organization can serve be for only, you know? They will not say only maritime security. They will say no, we'll work for other things as well, maritime economy and all these things, because the name itself is a rim association for regional cooperation. The cooperation will not be only in the field of security. Obviously economy should drive everything. Now it was not established recently. It was established in 1997. So it's an old organization, consensus-based, evolutionary, non-intrusive approach among the countries that are there on the Indian Ocean Rim. So for example, this is Indian Ocean Rim. So all the countries that are there to here, these are the 22 countries that are part of the Indian Ocean Rim Association. Okay? With the exception of 2 countries, that is not Pakistan and no Myanmar. There is 2 countries are not there. Secretariat is in the Ebony, that is in the Mauritius. India has taken one of the initiatives, that is the net provider of the information, that is the Information Fusion Center, to provide the real-time information to this particular organization under the initiative of Sagar. There is one more thing, so need to remember, International Information Fusion Center, that is a part of the IORA. Okay? Next is the Indian Ocean Dialogue, that is there, the meeting of the people that take place. So from 2013 they have started this meeting under the Indian Ocean Rim Association, and the recent in 2019 India has taken up the dialogue in 6th dialogue in India only. Okay? Chalo. We will repeat these things again when it comes in the current affairs. So don't worry about it, but we have to solve questions and that is what we are doing. So both the options are wrong. First, it is not established recently, and second, it is not meant for the maritime security only. It is meant for both of them. Then the question is IND-ARC. In 2015, the question was asked. The term IND-ARC sometimes in the news. What is the name for? What is this IND-ARC? Now you say, sir, ये तो current affair है. Yes, it's a current affair. But I want to get one insight from this current affair. So IND-ARC basically was an underwater observatory that is there in the Arctics. So that is the, you can see this is the Europe, this is the Arctic. So in Arctic, this is the place where an underwater observatory that they have established, that is IND-ARC. It is in the King's Jordan Ford in the Norway. So this is a part of the Norway part of the Arctic Ocean. Okay. So observatory, it will do what? It will study the climate, influence on the Indian monsoon and all these things. Now what key things? So answer is this: India's underwater observatory to scientifically study the Arctic region. one very good insight that you can take, that going forward, any initiative that you see in the Arctic, any initiative that you see in the Antarctic, they are very important when it comes to the current affairs. So we need also to see that where to focus in the current affairs, what needs to be given more preference, what needs to be revised more, what needs to be recollected more, where we should put more preference in our preparation. So these are the areas: Arctic, Antarctic, the international institutions that are associated with it, any new happenings that are happening in that place. For example, we'll discuss Indian stations in Antarctica, Indian stations in Arctic, right? So these are the things you need to keep in mind. Next question is, in India Mekong Cooperation Initiative of 6 countries, which of the following is not a participant or participants? Bangladesh, Cambodia, China, Myanmar, and Thailand. Which of the countries is not a participant? Very easy question. Mekong Ganga Cooperation. It's a previous year question. I hope it's a previous year question. Now, you can pause the video, obviously, you can try. So the Mekong in Ganga Cooperation, there are the few things you need to remember. Because of the Ganga, India is obviously there. Because of the Ganga, we assume that Bangladesh is here. No, Bangladesh is not here. Because of the Mekong, we can assume that China can be there. No, China is not there. So whenever you prepare, you should make a list and just cross it as well, so that you remember not only the people who are there, but also the people or country which are not there. Just like we have done in IORA, that Pakistan and Myanmar are not there, and this is what we need to remember. Then only one country from SAARC is there, and that is India. And remember, 6 countries are there. So all the other countries are part of ASEAN. Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia. So these countries are part of the ASEAN countries. So this is Mekong Ganga Cooperation. So answer will be, you eliminate Bangladesh and China and get the answer. Right? Easy question. Next is, which of the following describes the best concept of samudaya in Buddhism? So samudaya concept in Buddhism. Suffering is essential. Every suffering has a cause. Suffering can be extinguished. The complete annihilation of self. So in Buddhism, there are 4 noble truths known as the Arya Satya. Arya Satya, 4 noble truths. So the 4 noble truths that are there, first is dukkha, that is, the world is full of sufferings. The truth of sufferings, that we need to realize that there is suffering in the world. Then samudaya, there is a cause to the suffering. Buddha says that because of this ignorance, because of our attachments, this is the cause of our suffering. Next, nirodh, that is, there can be an end of this suffering, there can be cessation of this suffering. It does not mean that when there is a cause of suffering, if you remove this cause, this can be the end of the suffering. This is the 3rd noble truth says. So it is not only pessimistic but also an optimistic philosophy. Yes, the full world is full of suffering, but yes, we can eliminate the sufferings. And the 4th part is, that is mag, that is a marg. You can remember like that. Marg means path. So any of the 4 terms can be asked: dukkha, samudaya, nirodha, and mag. And this is the path, that is Ashtangika marg path. Okay. So the very easy answer, that is, every suffering has a cause. Okay. The last question, that is, La Nina is suspected to have caused the recent floods in Australia. How La Nina is different from El Nino? La Nina is characterized by usually hot, cold temperature in the equatorial Indian Ocean, while El Nino is warm ocean temperature in the equatorial Pacific. El Nino has an adverse effect on the southwest monsoon of India, but La Nina has no effect on the monsoon climate. Now I have put this question because we have discussed about El Nino and La Nina in the first indexes and report on places in news. Places in news, we have discussed that. And that is why I just put this question. Very easy question. So La Nina is nothing but when the trade becomes more strong. So a normal year becomes more, the same thing that is happening in the normal year becomes more aggressive. So that is nothing but La Nina effect. So when the La Nina effect is there is a lot of floods there in the Australian region, because warm condition develop there and a lot of evaporation, a lot of rain, floods are there. ठीक है. A lot of fisheries here because a lot of cold, so fishery market also, because of such a huge supply, a lot of problems happen here. So these are the La Nina effect, and both the statements are wrong because we have read about it, so I didn't want to discuss a lot on it. ठीक है. La Nina has no effect on the Indian monsoon. How can you say so? Again, it's an absolute statement, wrong, right? So this is, both the statements are wrong. Chalo. So let's finish the session very quickly. Let us revise. We started with the IC impacts, India-Canada conference on these good things. Then 1947 pact on the Gorkha soldiers. Then Teesta dispute that is there. Then Teesta River, the origination of the Teesta, that is there. One question that also we have discussed about this. Then we discussed about supply chain resilient initiative. Then India Maldives, the core of it, India neighborhood first and Maldives India first. Maldives recent projects, Indian Ocean Rim Association, the members of it, the net security provider and all this. Then the Indian architect, that is in ARC we have seen, and I have also said that focus on these things. Then India Mekong Ganga Cooperation, then the Four Noble Truth of Buddhism, and then the last question that is on the El Nino and the La Nina. So with this we finish our session. That is the international affair is done. The next session will be on the economy 1 and economy 2. We're almost halfway there. 6 sessions are there, and I think in totality there are 15 sessions, right? So we have done indexes report, governance and the international relations. So with this we finish the session. See you in the next session. Bye bye. Thank you.